Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of My Adventures with Superman. It was called Full Metal Scientist. And as the episode starts, Superman rescues someone from a burning building and realizes he has a new power that seems to be like a shield that he can extend beyond himself to other people or whatever he's touching. And after he flies away to help someone else, Livewire approaches the man that he rescued and seems to indicate that she's the one who set the fire, at which point the man deletes some data from his phone to back her off. Jimmy, meanwhile, struggles with managing Flip, the 11-year-old lead kid of his crew of kid operatives, whom we met last season, as well as his and Clark's new roomie, General Lane, who gives Clark a hard time as usual. A new factory run by Amertek is opening in Metropolis and plans to deploy a bunch of giant Robocops called Metallos, interestingly, to fight crime, and Lois tries to interview the CEO, but is seemingly scooped in her efforts by Vicky Vale before she sneaks into the Amertek HQ, only to find a destroyed lab and the CEO's address, at which point she has to run from a security guard when both she and Vicky are both discovered snooping. At the same time, Flip seems to have gotten into a spot of trouble chasing a story about the aforementioned robots. Superman and Jimmy end up finding Flip at her uncle's house, and it turns out he's Dr. John Irons, who, of course, in the comics is known better as Steel, and who is the designer of the very unstable Metallos, which it seems tend to blow up at random, a fact which the CEO is covering up with the help of Livewire. Even worse, the factory is powered by the same unstable reactor as the Metallos, only hundreds of times bigger. Superman and Dr. Irons confront the CEO, leading to a fight between Superman and a bunch of the Metallos. And fortunately, Dr. Irons puts on one of the Robocop-type mech suits and helps Superman. When the factory tower's reactor core is about to go kablooey, Superman flies up to it and tries to contain the impending explosion with his newly discovered shield ability, while Dr. Irons tries to take down the towers that are powering the core with a giant hammer. And Flip goes after the Robocop Metallos with her helicopter drone, which seems to shoot them with some type of digital signal. Lois manages to publish her story about all of this before Vicky can, prompting Vicky to offer her a job at the Gotham Gazette. Clark, who had been struggling both to not take General Lane's criticisms too much to heart, as well as to come up with the current article, is inspired by Dr. Irons' heroism to write an article about how the people of Metropolis are capable of rising to the occasion when necessary. LexCorp then swoops in and buys Amertek, at which point Dr. Irons is fired by Lex Luthor and his mech suit is confiscated, which of course means that now Amanda has an army of unstable Metallos and a mech suit. And that's where the episode ended. So, I like this episode okay, and that's mostly because I think Jack Quaid does an excellent job as Clark Kent and Superman, and because it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's very anime in that way, and I don't tend to like anime, which I said all during last season when I was doing my reviews. But I think it works with these characters. I don't know if maybe that's because I know them. I'm forgiving of it more than I would be in a traditional anime. But Lois is a real firecracker in this, and it's a lot of fun. And I think their romance is fun. And Jimmy is hilarious. I like that they brought in John Irons, who, like I said, in the comics is Steel, and who I think they are going to make Steel on this show. It's pretty obvious. Just a question of when. And so far, I even like their Lex Luthor, who, comes off more as a punk kid than a pompous genius, even though this character is also a genius. And so I don't know, I like that better somehow, so far at least. As always, the action is really good, the animation is really good. So of course I like that. I'm a little concerned with this whole child labor thing that's going on at the Daily Planet, where Jimmy was given control of this one department and how all of his underlings are little kids. I'm a little worried about that, like what's going on there. Also, we're 3 episodes in now, and there aren't going to be all that many this season, and we haven't gotten anywhere with the Supergirl thing. They mentioned it in the premiere, and Clark kind of seemed like he was trying to mention it again, but didn't this episode. And we've seen hide nor hair of Kara, which, bugs me because even if they didn't want to pull the trigger and have them get together so soon in the season, they could have done like a cutaway like showing her status and where she is and what condition she's in, to tease it. I would have enjoyed that, but they didn't do it. So I'm a little displeased about that. But, it looks like they're doing some world building this season, and I'm okay with that. So I'm still on board with this show. But that's really all there is to say about this episode. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back to do a breakdown and review of the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.